Recently, our fleet sales manager here at Criswell Automotive, Scott Silverman, celebrated his 35th year in a sales program he founded early in his career. Scott's team, including Frank Brewer and Debbie Reynolds, provide fleet vehicles to state and local government agencies, police, fire, rescue, and many other municipal and public utility agencies. Scott's group provides turnkey upfitting of fleet vehicles and equipment to serve these municipalities. Think customized police cars and ambulances, snowplows, or rescue and recovery equipment. Need a police vehicle with all the latest technology installed and ready to serve in the line of duty when it's delivered? Scott is your man. Whether he's teaming up with Chevrolet or Dodge for a demonstration event here at Criswell to showcase all the latest vehicles and options, or an on-site evaluation for a recommendation of needed units and equipment, Scott does a thorough job for his customers. And as recognition, Scott has won numerous awards over the years for his sales leadership in this specialized area of our business here at Criswell. I sat down with Scott recently to ask him a few questions about his work in the fleet sales department here at Criswell.
All right, so everybody knew you in high school as the AV guy. You pushed the cart around to the teachers. You know, I'm not making fun, Scott. It was an honorable job.
Yeah, yeah. This is before computers and stuff like
that. But I would have thought you would have gone into AV or something. So my question is, how did you put that away, or have you put that away? You moved on, obviously, to working at Criswell for 35 years. So how did that come about? How did you?
Well, you know, I guess I could describe myself as a geek in high school. I was a bit awkward, but I liked machinery. I liked technology, and at that time it was slide projectors and 16mm sound projector,
right.
You know, and so they needed somebody to set up the equipment. I was handy with that kind of stuff, and I didn't mind doing it, so I liked to do it. I've always been into music and audio, and so I built a really cool home theater at home, like, you know, the ultimate man cave. And you know, I was just always a tech guy. I was always a hands-on kind of guy. I like taking things apart from the time I was little, and you'd have a toy. Next thing, if I could find a screwdriver, I'd be taking it apart and seeing how it worked and putting it back together. And so I kind of went into auto mechanics after high school and a little bit of college, and I went to Lincoln Tech, took some automotive technology classes, actually graduated from Lincoln Tech, and then I became an apprentice truck mechanic for a while, and then I became an apprentice Cadillac mechanic. Went to work for Coleman Cadillac, and worked there for a few years, became a master technician. And but after a few years, I kind of realized that if you're going to stay in this business for a long time, the older you got in the mechanics trade, you kind of made less money, and in sales it was the other way. And the older you got, the more experience you had, the more people knew you, and you'd make more money. And I saw that trend, and you know, mechanics are compensated by piecework. They get paid by the jobs they do, and if they can't do 2 transmissions a day, if they can only do 1 transmission a day because they're getting old and slow, then, you know, they only get paid for half as much. So
right.
I saw that trend, and I didn't like it. Plus, in those days, you know, we were breathing a lot of asbestos and carbon monoxide and a lot of things like that, which were kind of unhealthful. So I decided to move into sales, and I got up my courage, and I went to see Mr. Coleman, who is the owner, Bill Coleman. He's since passed away. And I told him, I want to sell Cadillacs. I know everything about a Cadillac. I could sell the heck out of them. He said, well, we really want you as a technician. You know, you want to keep you. You're a great technician. You know, we've spent all this time in your apprenticeship program. We want to, you know, want to see that reap those benefits. And I said, well, I've made up my mind. I'm going to sell cars. So he said, well, you're too young to sell Cadillacs. The people who buy Cadillacs are much older, and they're not going to trust someone in their 20s. I suggest you sell Chevrolets. He said, I got a friend up in Gaithersburg who owns a Chevrolet store. I'll make a phone call and I'll get you an interview. So I went out and I bought myself a suit, a 3-piece suit. I got a clip-on tie. I didn't know salesmen all wore ties and 3-piece suits then. I got my clip-on tie, and I came up here for an interview. I ended up having like 3 interviews because they didn't want to hire me because I was a greenhorn, never sold cars before. But I was determined.
Yeah.
And I told them I don't need a draw. I don't need a demo. I said, like, just let me start and let me show you what I can do. And I sold 17 cars my first month.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah, and it wasn't that hard. We only had 8 salesmen here, and a lot of them were. This was sort of a country suburban town. You know, Gaithersburg was largely agricultural. There weren't hardly any houses compared to today.
How did the leads come in at that time?
They walked in the door mostly.
So there's mostly walk-ins.
Yeah. I rock and rolled. I sold a bunch of cars, and it was fun. And that was the good thing about it. I mean, I love cars. I love tech stuff, and when people ask me questions, I could answer them. You know, I was a mechanic. I knew why this was, and I found it easy. I've never thought of myself as an extroverted person. I was sort of an introvert, and if somebody asked me, "Oh, could you be a car salesman?" I'd say, "Yeah, I could never do that." But it was fun. I mean, I was selling something I really believed in, and I really liked, and it was easy. So.
So what was the dealership like then? It was only 5 years old, 7 years old at that time.
Yeah.
What was the area like? What was?
Well, you got to put yourself in that time. Jimmy Carter was president. We had really high interest rates. I think the average household income back then was about $15,000 or $16,000. City of Gaithersburg had 2 police cars and 4 police officers.
Oh my! Yeah.
So it was just a quieter time. You know, we had barns and silos. You know,
right. I remember what it was like. I moved out here in '72, I think, or '3, and nothing. I mean, I lived over off of Shady Grove Road. There was the Sears warehouse, old building, and
Bechtel
and cornfields.
Yeah, there were just a few little. You had IBM, which is probably the biggest employer at the time in Gaithersburg. And you had Bechtel Power Company down on Shady Grove, where Home Depot is now, and those were the 2 big employers. And I think we existed on the employees from IBM and the employees from Bechtel were probably our biggest customers. And then, as the community grew, as the houses got built and businesses got built, well, there were tradespeople that needed vehicles. There were plumbers and bricklayers and electricians and all of these trades. And I realized early in my career that if you sell that kind of a customer, they may buy, 2 trucks a year, or maybe every 3 years they buy 2 trucks. Where if you just sell a family a car, it might be 7 or 8 years for them to to need another car. And so I sort of focused on the commercial aspect. We didn't have a commercial department or fleet department.
I was going to say that sort of evolved.
Everybody could sell new, used, anything that we offered, and I just kind of gravitated towards the commercial end of it because I like trucks. I mean, they're easy to sell. To a guy that's buying a truck, he wants it to be painless. He's not buying it because, like when a guy comes in to buy a Corvette, it's something he's
passionate
after.
about.
It's a passion. Yep. A guy wants to buy a new stake body truck. He needs something to haul. He doesn't want to waste a lot of time. He doesn't want to play a lot of games. He wants someone to be honest and straightforward and just, right to the point, give him a good price. Be there if he needs service, make sure his car gets through service, quickly. And I liked that, and it worked really well. And then Mr. Criswell had read in the Gaithersburg Gazette about a contract award that Coons Chevrolet in Tyson's Corner was getting to sell pickup trucks to the city of Gaithersburg. They're buying 2 new pickup trucks. And it really upset Mr. Criswell because he pays taxes in Gaithersburg, and he was a supporter of Gaithersburg. And so he went to a city council meeting and protested and said, why aren't you buying, at least, giving us
locally,
the opportunity to buy locally? And they said, well, they apologized, and they said, Mr. Criswell, from now on, you will be on our vendor list for every vehicle bid that goes out.
Yep.
And when the first bid came out, he brought it to my office. I was the commercial guy, and he said, whatever you have to do, don't lose this bid. I want you to win it. I don't care if we make nothing on it. I don't care if we lose money on it. But the city of Gaithersburg is going to drive Chevrolets from Criswell Chevrolet. And that was the start of my career. That was the lamp that lit. And he said that. He said, whatever you have to do, be competitive, win it. And I did. I won the city of Gaithersburg. And next it was City of Rockville, and then it was Montgomery County, and then state of Maryland, and then all the cities within the state of Maryland, and all the counties, and all the police departments and fire departments and school systems and prisons and libraries, and you know, it just spread. The Metro Transit Authority, the Park and Planning Administration. So that was what I focused on, and it worked really well for us. You know, it's grown and grown and grown. I think.
Well, these opportunities just don't get dumped in your lap. You obviously are doing something right. What does it take to be a fleet salesperson? What do you have to provide
Lots of
to the
patience.
customer? Yeah.
Lots of patience. You know, it seems like in our society today, everyone wants instant gratification, and that's, if you're that kind of person, you would never make it in this business. When we see an invitation for a bid, we respond to it. Then there's a period of time before the bids get opened and evaluated, and an award might be 2 or 3 or 6 months later. So then you get an award. Now you have to order the vehicles, and let's say it's a cab and chassis. You order it and ship it to a body company, have a body put on it, have all this work done to it, deliver it to the customer, and then they have 30 days to pay us, which sometimes it's a little longer than that. So from the time I do my work to the time I would get paid, it could be a year.
Wow.
So it takes a tremendous amount of patience and tenacity and attention to detail, because when you're bidding on government contracts, you know, it could be that thick in boilerplate instructions that you have to comply with all these regulations and rules, and you have to make sure that everything is in compliance, and so you have to really pay attention to detail. If you miss one little thing, your price might be lowest, you might win the bid, but you could lose a tremendous amount of money for the dealership. And so there's a big risk there, and you have to sort of have a risk-reward ratio that's, you know, that's great. And you know, I made mistakes. We all make mistakes, but you learn from your mistakes. And so, you know, what does it take? It takes somebody with perseverance and focus and determination, competition, a competitive spirit. You want to win. You want to be the winner. You know, when you win a bid, you're a low bidder. You win the contract. It's like winning a game. You know, it makes it fun. I mean, I have to say the most rewarding aspect, and it's not money, it's not anything like that. It's when I turn on the evening news and I see the vehicles that we created doing their job.
Yeah.
And when I turn on the news and I see the police cars and I see the fire and rescue vehicles and I see the crime scene investigation units, you know, it makes me feel good. Like I sold that vehicle.
Right.
I created that vehicle. We painted it here in our paint shop. Here
You
at
gave
Criswell.
them the tools that got that job done.
Yeah. So I mean, that's probably the most rewarding, is to see your work, and you see it in the limelight there. You see it in the spotlight. That's kind of cool. You know, the least rewarding is, you know, when a vehicle gets damaged here. You know, to me, that's like a molestation. You know, when we have cars in our care, especially new cars, and somebody opens a car door into it, it might be just a little ding, you know, but to me, that's like such a heartbreak, and I take that really personal, and that's probably the least favorite thing of my job, having to deal with that.
I wanted to ask you about your electric car. Your choice of cars was a Chevy Volt. Well, I know you also have other interests in electrical, solar energy, and that sort of thing. How did you? Was it a no-brainer that you decided you wanted this car? What?
Well, you know, I guess I've sold about 30 or 40,000 cars in my career, and you think about the impact that has on the environment. I mean, yeah, well, not necessarily just because of me. I mean, if they didn't buy them from me, they would have bought them from someone else. But you know, I think the automobile is probably the greatest invention to come from the 20th century. It opened up freedom, you know, for people to get around the country and get around the world. But you know, it's taken its toll on our planet. We have global warming. We have a lot of pollution issues, and so I've always been interested in alternative fuels other than gasoline and diesel. I've been a big proponent of natural gas vehicles. I think that, you know, we're the Saudi Arabia of natural gas. We have so much natural gas in this country, and cars and trucks can run on natural gases real easy. It's a little bit more expensive to buy the car, you know, when you first get it, but The fuel is less expensive, and we don't have to import it. So, and it burns very clean. But electric cars have really come on strong in the last decade or so. And I bought one in September. It'll be 3 years since I've had our Chevy Volt. We replaced a V8 SUV that was our family car that got maybe 15 miles per gallon on a good day.
Yeah.
And my wife was putting about $90 maybe every 10 days, you know, to fill that thing up. And we bought a Chevy Volt, and we put 44 solar panels on the roof of our house.
Wow.
Which virtually eliminated our electric bill. And I charged the car with solar energy. So I mean, I bet you she fills up maybe once every 3 months now. And it's got, I think, an 8-gallon gas tank. So maybe she puts 6 gallons in it every 3 months. I mean, it's amazing. And I think it's the first real, no excuse alternative energy vehicle that you could buy and drive. You know, most cars, like natural gas cars I was speaking of before, you know, they have a range, and until you have to get to a natural gas station to fill it up, and there are not natural gas stations everywhere. So, you know, you have an excuse, well, I can't really drive this car because I can't get fuel. A Chevy Volt, you can get in and drive it to California. That, you know, it can run on gasoline if it needs to. But for most people drive less than 50 miles a day.
Right.
Probably 80% of the population drives less than 50 miles a day. So the Volt, you plug it in, you know, if you have a garage, and you can plug it in your house, and every night it fills up with fuel. And if you're only driving it 40 miles or so, you're probably never going to use gas. Or if you have a charging station capability at work. A lot of people drive here to Criswell and have Volts. We have quite a few employees that have Chevy Volts.
Yep.
And we have chargers here at work, so you know, they may drive in from Hagerstown and then charge here, and they go home, and they go in and back every day and not use any gasoline. I think that's a beautiful thing.
I think you just convinced me to lease a Volt.
There you go. I'm a salesman.
Yeah.